Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for dropping by on my Twitch channel. It's really nice to see you all. And hello, Minister D. Hello, Dreamlab. Hello, Rod. Hello, Brian. And anyone else who's out there watching, joining in today. That's very, very nice. Rod, I'm super sorry to hear about your Facebook page trouble. That's just weird. Like you say, if it's not one thing, it's the other. I had to really laugh hard when you said, Brian, life is extra spicy these days. It's just so super funny. Yes, I guess it is. But I wonder if it's that big a loss, or if it's literally the universe giving you a hint and saying, that you don't need. Forget Facebook, man. It's just what's the point, really? Every time I post a link that I'm doing a stream, if it doesn't happen automatically, I have to go and log in, and this bloated interface takes forever to load, and then you think it's done, and there's like 5 other boxes that pop up that you have not asked for, and then you kind of stumble around to the link that gets you to your page, and do you want to do this? Do you want to? I don't. I just want to go copy paste post, and that takes like 30 seconds, and I'm thinking, is it worth 30 seconds to reach people on Facebook these days? I really don't know anymore. It's an interesting question about generations that I think a recent WordPress newsletter brought me onto this, and I didn't even know that existed. It's called Generation Z. Did you know that existed? This is the first time I hear of it. Or Z, Generation Z, I guess, Generation Z. So it's, hello, Joe, good to see you. And so they were saying, like, me and Julia were part of the Generation X, the like Generation X, which is the generation that came after the baby boomers. So baby boomers is kind of my mom, and they were named that because I guess people were wealthy enough to have children, and it's all good. And I don't know, is that what they call it? I don't really know where these names come from. But Generation X, so that's us, kind of people that. Hello, Steve. Also very nice, very nice. The generation that has kind of had computers in their lives, grown up with color TV, that sort of thing. But then after us, of course, there's the millennials. And the millennials, they've had computers in their lives from an early age, whereas we have kind of grown into them. We still remember a time before home computers were commonplace. And then there's the millennials. But I wasn't aware that after the millennials, there's another generation, and that's the ones that are called the Generation Z. And they've now grown up with things like iDevices, and they do not remember that there once was a time before the internet was commonplace. They've grown up with this thing of anything and everything is always available at any time from any device. Always. And that's kind of a scary thought. I mean, we remember that wasn't always the case. So yeah, there's another generation. And I think the point of that article, and I think this is where I'm trying to get the point across now, the point was that Generation Z, it works very differently with what is perceived in a short amount of time. So the one argument was that Generation Z is very quick to make decisions. They look at a post for 1 second, and if the message isn't there, they move on, or if it's a message that they don't like. So some people argue, well, it's because they have a short attention span. They don't take the time to look at what's happening, and they don't read things anymore. They just look, and if it's not for them, they move on. And that's the thing with Generation Z. If you want to capture that audience, if you're not able to capture that, if you want them to hang on a page and read for 30 seconds what this is all about, they're gone. They're not really, they're not going to hang around. And so another article was saying it's not because they have a short attention span, because that's often associated with, you're just stupid. Not the case. They have an attention filter that is apparently more effective at figuring out, is this for me or is this not for me? And if it could either be because they can look through this better, or they're tuned into more what's relevant for them or not. And one of the things that is much more relevant to that Generation Z than it is to other generations is they don't buy into bullshit. They don't buy into non-authentic crap that is worth literally not a cent. So they can see right through that and say, well, that's not for me, and then just move on. So there we go. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I don't think it's stupidity. I don't think so either. I think they're just much more adapted to living in that world, whereas we're all, even though we think we've got it all figured out, it's not quite the case, I don't think. Anyway, just my 2 cents, really. I wanted to share 2 things with you today. I've been working hard on my gaming website, on my gaming collection. Let me go and switch on my little orange highlighter thing here so I can show you what I've been doing with my time today. I just wanted to show you that quickly, and then we'll go on and build a Blender animation that Dreamlab and I were talking about earlier in the Stardew Shenanigans stream in regards to making a Dolly Zoom animation, like, you know, dollying in and zooming out or vice versa, while retaining the character in the same size on the picture. It's gonna be good. I tell you, it's gonna be good. But before we do that, I just wanted to quickly show you the gaming website and the current state thereof. So that is, you know, this is the front page of it. So this is the live site on games.wpguru.tv. I'm just going to go quickly post that link in the chat if y'all don't mind. Here's my games collection website, or today's state of my games collection website. So what I've done here is I've added the latest game stream on the front page. It's just a playlist that's embedded here that shows the last item, and it has a couple of links here. I've also explained what this thing is. I thought that's probably a good idea. But more importantly is I've added more games to the whole collection. So the list of games, they're still not in there, all of them, but you know, there's 107 of them are now in my collection, which is, you know, on the website that are in my collection. I thought that's quite nice. And I've taken some time to, and here comes the big reveal, I've taken some time to craft the single post experience there. So when you click on any of these games, it just came up with the title in the previous version, but now check it out. It comes up with the Steam widget. Oh, that's I've also made another thing. I've shifted this 3 pixels over. The platform thing that really was annoying me, 3 pixels over, looks now in line with all the other things. I think it's 3 pixels. Maybe 3 is too much. Maybe I should go 1 pixel back, maybe 2 pixels. I don't know. I'll see how it works. And I've done this, and this is why it took so long to do that. I've done this with the WordPress custom field on the post page. And what that means is that all I have to do is paste in the URL of the Steam page. If the game is on Steam, then my code is clever enough to figure out what the Steam ID is and then grab a little widget. So that's how that works. Rod speaks to squirrels. That's exciting. So in the back end, the difference that is now there is that under games, each of these games here, if I go to the bridge, for example, the latest game that I've added there, then at the very bottom of the page, there's now a game store link section, and I've crafted that. So that took me quite a while to put that in here. And so you just add the code to the URL to the Steam page in there, along with the title of the game and all the metadata that we've already talked about. And as soon as that page then gets shown, that widget is being built from that code that I've made there. Is it still open? Let's have a look here. Does it? Hello? Yes, it is. All right, cool. The code for that is still open, and it's quite a chunk of it. It's a plugin that I've seen somebody had made that. So this is the part on that actually checks, is the metadata available? And if it is, then we'll bring up the widget. If we don't have it, then we just leave it out. But if we do have it, then we call this function here, pass on the URL to that function. And as soon as we've got that, then we can go and display it. And it just explodes the string. And so until we grab that number on it, and that number then gets turned into plain HTML code that comes from Steam. Actually, Steam have this API that if you build that widget, that way you can just display a widget on your page. That is how that works. The Squirrel Whisperer. I think that's a wonderful title. And this was just some testing code. I think I'm going to close this down now. And I'm going to close this one down as well. And we can, yeah, indeed close everything down. There we go. That's what I've been doing with my day. And Dreamlab and I had this chat this morning about that Dolly Zoom. And in case you don't know what that is, let me just go and show you one that I've shown earlier in the YouTube stream. That actually, this is on my channel, isn't it? The WP Guru, there we go. And in it, it's called, I believe I called it the Vertigo, was it the Vertigo something? How to make a Dolly Zoom, there we go. Made with DAZ Studio, that's the one. This is the one I was talking about. And so the effect of that is that we zoom into the character, either zoom in or out, while at the same time, so dollying in closer to or further away from the character, but also changing the focal length at the same time. And that's how this weird perspective shift is happening. And this was a fairly small apartment set that I've made that with. So it's I'm trying to do something. First of all, this was in DAZ Studio, so I'll see if I can make that with a larger set in Blender. I've never tried that out in Blender, and that might actually be kind of cool. We'll see, shall we? Crazy things. And you can see, if you look at the face, you can see that her face kind of changes as well, but that's just part of the perspective shift. And that's just something that we have to kind of live with. And I believe this was extreme because I was starting out not really with a very long focal length already. In this video, there's a little description of how I've made that, but I'm going to follow more or less the same steps now in Blender. And I've never done this in Blender, so it's going to be, interesting. Interesting to see if it works. Thank you, good stuff. Maybe we'll watch that. Because this is just 3D. Let's go and watch that together. Do you think that contains copyrighted material? Yeah, I can't actually show that here, sorry. Because otherwise it's rebroadcasting somebody else's material. It's going to get me into all kinds of trouble. Yeah, so the steps and the jaws thing, exactly, and the jaws thing, that's exactly how that works. The jaws where Roy Scheider sits at the beach and the camera kind of zooms in on him and does away with the background and just hooks in on him. That's kind of cool. I was thinking the largest set that I can think of, I've had a look at something that we've prepared earlier here, was of course the Polygon City scene. And we haven't played with that in a while. That was that large animation that I was thinking of building, but it became just so large that I thought, hey, let's go do the bank heist animation instead. It's been a few days since I've been in Blender, so, let's see what happens. Hello, Christina, good to see you. Welcome to the stream. So that is in, I believe, Polygon City. I think that is in here in blend files. I think we can just use the latest one that I've had here, Polygon City 6, and just see what the state of that file is, and then we'll see if we can get started with that. So this contains a lot of animation data already, and I don't really need that, so I might just delete some people because it's literally just using this as a background. I do remember this is not what it looked like last time, but hey, that's fine. Shader compilation sometimes doesn't work out so well. There we go. Yes, this was the animation that we've made together there. And I'm thinking we can pick the thing by the park and just set up a brand new camera and just literally just use this because the materials, I believe, are set up for this. I believe. Oh, look, that's cycles. Let's see what it looks like in Eevee. Yeah, because I want to render this in Eevee and just, just use this as the background. I don't think all materials are quite set up for this, so we'll probably have to look through it. It's almost easier to just bring in the scene again. I'm trying to find a spot that shows a lot of geometry in the background, so we could probably pick something like this here. Just so that we can see a lot of city in the background. I'd like to see that, and then we can maybe focus in on a character. Yeah, I don't think I want to see much of that, but we'll see how it goes. If he's just standing, I don't know, somewhere here maybe, on a street corner, maybe that's a cool idea. Show him at a street corner and, you know, getting all flustered. Madness Middles, how you doing? Good to see you. Very good to see you guys. Nice to get together in the afternoon and do some 3D stuff. I always appreciate us doing that. And indeed, Rod is now caused. Rod, it sounds terrible, but we're talking about you in the Stardew streams all the time, by the way. And you're one of the highlights of the stream, because whenever I do fishing, I now have that iridium rod. And of course, we're thinking about you, iridium rod, fiberglass rod, and all that. And today was a bit of fishing with the iridium rod. We haven't mentioned you by name, but we have used the fiberglass rod. So there we go. Stills camera, main camera. I think I'm going to go get rid of all of these because we have that saved as a file. So let's go and take that away. Delete stills camera, also delete. The people, I don't think we're going to use any of the people. With it, we're going to get rid of all the animations. Give Blender a moment to do all that. Same with the cars. We'll get rid of the cars as well. And we'll just focus on the camera work here. Well, is Blender still working on it? No, it didn't do that. Unless we do want to put people in the background. It's just going to get a little bit too much work, perhaps. Squirrel Rod. Yes, Rod, tell us about this again. It was a discussion that he and Joe had. And apparently now Rod is the so-called Squirrel Whisperer, which is really nice. We can maybe use the cars, but they have animation attached, so I might have to... I don't really know how to get rid of the animation that well. Maybe we'll just go... Yeah, no, actually, let's go delete all of these things. It is just about the... It is all about what we're building. There. So this set is from DAZ Studios, and I'm just doing it this way. Usually I can just bring these things in from empty collections. I can leave them. That's cool. And we need one camera, actually. We need one camera. So let's go Shift A, put a camera in, so we have something to control, since I've deleted all of mine, just so that there's no keyframes with that there. And that camera needs to be moved into the Tech Bits collection. There it is, my main camera. And I go and select this little guy here and just make sure I can look through the camera. So camera, view camera, set active object as camera. There we go, that's interesting. And we need to make sure we lock that, and we're going to have a look at the, hello? Oh, where's that hydrant gone now? Props hydrant, what a shame. We're just going to have to feel ourselves back into that position in which I just was. What a shame. That's okay. We'll find it again. Oh, we're not that far away. I like it. I like it. It was literally just here. Haha. Nicely done. So I'm thinking we'll bring in one of our favorite characters. Perhaps the skeleton from who's on the dancing on the right hand side. Maybe we can use him. I'm thinking I've never used him in Blender, so I think he might be a good candidate. And I'm thinking of having a mid shot of him just, you know, not really knowing what's going to happen next with that weird city that he's in. I think that might be cool. There. So we've got that all set up. Let me go and save this. somewhere nice, perhaps in Polygon City. Yeah, let's do that. I'll call this one Dolly Zoom. And there we are. That is nice to know that Roberta's here. I was a bit concerned that my favorite feline viewer wasn't on Stardew Valley this morning because Brian was at work, of course. But hey, that's just how the cookie crumbles. I wonder if we can, and this is just, I'm just thinking out loud here. If I go into my people's folder, if I can bring in the skeleton in the same way that we used him in DAZ Studio, so with the animation of him just idling around. I'm thinking I might be able to do that, but I'm not sure if I can. So let's go and try that out. I don't even remember where that was. It wasn't Stream Animations, wasn't it? Mixamo exports. There it is. That could well be what we're looking for. Grim waving, looking behind, looking left, right. That could be it here. Let's try that. Let's try that. Animation import. Groovy. Let's see where he ends up. See if we're getting him. And where he's going to be. And all that. There he is. So he's right over here. That's exciting. G Shift Z. I don't know if he's got the correct size or not. He probably hasn't. He also doesn't quite look healthy, so I'm not sure how he's gonna behave. Oh, there we go. He's not actually. He doesn't want to be moved into that spot. What's the animation look like? Does it do anything? Oh yeah. So he does do something. That's cool. And he's just looking around. I wonder if on the pose menu we just need to clear the transformation. That has not worked. That's interesting. So I guess the answer to my question is then no, comma, that doesn't work. And that's probably because we didn't put him into Blender to begin with. I believe we literally exported him from DAZ Studio directly, applied a Mixamo animation, and now we're bringing him into Blender, and that might be where things go wrong. So I wonder, if there's a different way of doing it. Let's use him as a static object rather than having him move around. So I'll bring him out from DAZ Studio as an OBJ perhaps, or an FBX, like a static FBX, and then we'll see what we do next. Grim guy X. It doesn't really want to do. Oh, it's because I'm in pose mode, isn't it? Yeah, that's why. Come on. Get out of you. Get out of that. Alrighty, let's have a look at DAZ Studio and bring in the skeleton guy again. Might well be, Rod, might well be. A brain, okay, that's why don't we try and make that happen as well? So figures, was he under figures? I'm sure he was. Grim skeleton. Where are you, brother? Could be that he's not under figures. Grim. No, look at that. He's not actually in here. There he is. Grim the Toon Skeleton. Wherever that was. Oh, he's in Lost and Found. Oh yeah, I remember now. Poor little guy. He's not a figure. So one thing that's a shame of having to do this, having to transport the character, is of course that we lose all these beautiful morphs that we have here. So I'll try and do this as an FBX, so at least that way, that's the wrong button, wasn't it? At least that way I can retain the rigging, and we'll see how that works here. So I'll put him into Polygon City, into I'll maybe make that a new folder. I'm going to call that one DAZ Exports, just because I can. Grim. There we go. Now comes the kind of interesting thing here. How we're gonna actually do that. So many options here. I say embed textures. Why not? Collect textures to folder. Knock ourselves out. Merge diffuse and opacity texture. Don't even know what that means. Convert clothing to static geometry. Allow degrading, skinning, scaling, sub D information. Should we do that? Sub D information? Don't think he has sub D information. I might leave that out. Selected, no hidden and all figures. That's good. Let's just see what happens, shall we? DAZ goes to work. See what Blender makes of it. I may just go take the city away. Under people, there's some other things here. I think that should probably be, deleted. I don't really know why this is still in here. Tune I left base. I'd love to get rid of that. I don't know why that's still in here. And unselectable. That's weird. That's bizarre. Yeah, we can literally not even see it. Where is it? What is it? Anything in here? Animation, does this? Oh, that's just, oh, I see, I know what that is. These are ani-blocks, action strips, I think. Right, well, that's what they are. Good stuff. Well, let's bring him into people, import FBX. And this is now in Polygon City and DAZ exports, Grim, FBX. Scaling, I'll see what happens. I think I have to increase him or decrease him. Always a surprise. He still looks a little bit wonky there, but at least this way we retain the rigging. So I think now if I go to pose and just say clear transform all, then he's in his regular pose here. Go back to object mode, and I should be able to move his bones now. At least that's what I'm hoping. Oops. Maybe I should do that in pose mode, just to see if that's actually possible. Yeah, okay, cool, I can do that now. So we haven't lost the rigging, we've still got the rigging, that's nice. I could literally go ahead and try and put some shape keys on him to mimic the poses that he has, but I'll focus on the camera work so that we have, that we get that done, and then if we wanted to animate the character later, I think we can do it later. But let's focus on the camera work maybe. I'm not actually having coffee, Joe. Thank you for asking. This is a very harmless chamomile tea from Trader Joe's, organic chamomile tea. But I've had coffee this morning, so why is my demeanor different to what you remember it to be? If so, please let me know. I'll call the doctors immediately. So in regards to the skeleton together with this city, are you larger? Are you smaller? I think you're kind of a good size here. G, Shift Z to bring him closer. No, actually, he's much smaller than he needs to be. So let's put him next to, I don't know, maybe next to a door, just so that we get a rough idea of how tall he needs to be, because he doesn't need to be 100 times taller. He just needs to be a little bit taller, I think, so that he fits in there. So this is a bit too big. If we assume this door to be he should fit through there, just to give me a bit of a scale. We're just going to put him down a bit. I say down a bit. It took me forever to figure out if ever this happens to you, you want to make a scale adjustment like here, and your cursor is too close to the object. When you press S and you move the mouse like, you know, back and forth, sometimes there's just very little room between your mouse and the origin point of where you're adjusting this to. And if that is small, then these adjustment increments happen so fast that you think that's uncontrollable. How am I going to control this in between here? How am I going to make this a bit of a finer control? And the way to do it is literally just move your mouse away from that origin point. So the further it is away from there when you press the S button, the more finer control you've got here. And maybe you can also press Shift, and then you have even finer control. But that's two ways of doing that. So Shift is fine control no matter what, but literally the way Blender interpolates this change is that it looks between the origin point and where in the scene your cursor is. And if that's only a very tiny amount, then the tiniest movement has a very large factor on, you know, what happens there. So there we go, just a bit of, you know, random knowledge on the side. That's that. Since we're going to leave him in a static position, I'm inclined to, what's the word? Apply the transformations. Is that Control A? All transforms there. I think that's good. Do you know, if it were in DAZ Studio, we can do it. I think I'm going to focus on the camera work today, and maybe we'll do posing and animating the character perhaps tomorrow, because I would like to have him to wear his cloak. So like in DAZ Studio, we have some add-on content for him, like the Grim cloak. And I think that looks quite nice. So you can put that on him, and then he even has a scythe. Look at that. So he can, you know, he can go and he even has a little, you know, he has funny little poses, so he can hold his own head, and that sort of thing. That might be quite nice. I am actually inclined to yeah, actually, Joe, that is a good idea. He needs a top hat. Yeah, why don't we put that in? Why don't we do that? Actually, we can just go and give him something, give him better pose really, rather than having him in the T pose. So I don't really know how we're gonna. Oh, that was that, wasn't it? It would be nice to literally animate him as well, but that's not entirely sure how to bring these poses into Blender. So there's ways to do it. One would literally be to export this pose and then apply it as a shape key. And then in Blender, I have something akin to what we have as morphs in DAZ Studio. So that's a possibility. Good point, Rod. Oh my God, I never even thought about that. That is just, you know, it's just something else, man. Can't have that happen. Let's see if it works. If I go and export this as an OBJ, just to satisfy my curiosity, really. I'll just call this Grim Pose number 9 because this is what it is, and we don't actually need this as an FBX. We're happy for this to be an OBJ. And literally just use the selection here. Ignore invisible nodes, perfect. Existing groups, don't write field surfaces, perfect. So I don't remember exactly how this works. But, you know, why don't we give it a go, hey? Why don't we give it a go? Here's a man, and there's this thing, maybe Christina knows about shape keys. They are under, I don't even know where they are anymore. They are probably, are they under, I need to select the geometry first. So this is the guy. And they are under, that's not it. Shape keys. That's not it either. That's not, is it this one maybe? Vertex shape keys, there we go. This is shape keys here. And I believe in order to work with them, I have written an article on this one time. I think I have to go and hit the plus sign, and that'll be the base. And now I can bring in another orb, or technically I can now go and move him around and save that as another shape key. But how I bring in morphs from DAZ Studio like that, I don't remember. I don't remember how to do that. Indeed, then he's all, you know, he's all nice and harmless. I'm gonna have to go and do some fiddling there. I think, you know, let's actually bring him in with a funny pose before we set up the camera. This is how, you know, 45 minutes go down the drain before we've even done anything that we set out to do. Welcome to one of Jay's streams. Let's go get rid of him quickly before I change my mind. There's so many other things now in here. I still don't know how to get rid of that. Maybe I can't. Doesn't matter. We'll bring him in with which pose? Maybe this one here. That's a nice pose. And his clothes. There. Oh, that's already, yeah, let's get rid of that. This is Grim and his cloak. Let's see if we can export both of them. I'll call him Grim Posed as OBJ. And in this case, we do actually want to write surfaces, and we want to use the original maps. And we want to ignore the invisible things, and I believe that's it. There's some, with OBJ, there's some weird thing about exporting it out to Blender. I think it needs to be much larger. Let's see how that works. And that is, of course, in here under DAZ Exports Grim Post. Okay. Z forward, and let's see if that is crowned with success. So I guess no is the answer. I think I've exported him a little bit too large there. Let's get rid of him and try that again. I can change the scale on import, but it's better to sort the export out correctly. So let's try 100% instead. So I would be surprised if they'd fixed it. DAZ fixing things. That made me laugh, I say. There we go. Grim. With his maps. Maps are just coming in here. That's cool. And let's have a look what he looks like in comparison to the cities. He's still a little bit large. Would you say? Maybe a tiny bit large. That's okay. Maybe we can just go and make him S1. No, that's not it. S will... That is still ever so slightly large. And still large. I'm glad that his origin point is set correctly. So since we are so close to this little entrance here, G-Shift-Z will move him over there. There. That's kind of the correct size, isn't it? He would kind of fit through here, goes through the door as a ghost. I think that might look much better with him in a pose. Okay, so let's pretend this didn't happen, and we're just going back to finding that spot that we actually wanted to use in the beginning, 45 minutes ago. That was somewhere here, wasn't it? That was the fire hydrant that I had thought. Yeah, there we go. The camera's still in place. Let's go bring him into position. G Shift Z. So I suppose the first thing that we need to decide on is, do we want for him to start with less background, or do we want to start with more background? So the effect is very different. If you start with kind of a mid shot and then you increase the width while dollying in and zooming out, then you add more perspective to the whole thing, and that has this feeling of more of the world coming into the character. We can do that, or we can do the other way around, that we have the character and a lot of the world, and we kind of focus in on him more while much of the world is kind of disappearing. So I suppose that's something that we need to think about before we start setting up our camera. Let me know what you'd like to do, and then we can probably do both, but where shall we start? Close camera on him and then move out? Or shall we start with a further away camera and a long lens and then dolly in and go wider? Very important to make that decision. That's right, exactly, Brian. That is exactly what we're doing. Oh, scale zoom. Oh no, sorry, that's not actually what we're doing. I think I know. I think I know what you mean now. I think let's just try it out and see what works best. If we pick our camera and we have, currently we've got 50 millimeters. So if we were to go zoom out, then we would see much more of the city coming in while being close to him. So this is now, I think 8 is probably the closest or the widest we can do. Maybe this is a nice effect that we basically zoom in while his hand kind of keeps creeping in there. So we start with about like 200 or so on him looking like this. Oops. Could even use more than that, maybe. Let's see what 300 looks like. So that pole here, maybe we'll just go get rid of that there. It's kind of in the way. I didn't quite like that. And it might be a little bit off center, might do him good. See if we had this as a starting point for our camera. And that is the focal length and the position. Let me lock that in. This is the focal length, and then also the position, which is under where's that now? Transform. There. Transform and rotation. Scale is probably the same. And then of course, how long do we want that animation to be? Maybe like 20 seconds at 30 frames a second. That is about 600 frames. Let's make it end there, just so that we have a, just, you know, kind of an idea of what we're doing here. Add frame 600. Oop, no keyframes. That's a shame, isn't it? Do we have a keyframe here? Yeah, we've got keyframes here. That's cool. And then that's where it was. Exactly. That's where it was. So at the end, at 600, we want to have a focal length now of about, let's say 12. I'll lock that in. We can always change that later. And then I'll go and have location, whoops, a location of something much closer. Might even have an even shorter focal length, like 8mm. It's kind of ideal for Halloween, isn't it? So we'll lock that in. And on the camera, we'll also log in the 8mm. So now, in theory, if I move my camera, that should now already give us that amazing effect there. Hopefully, let's see. Oh yeah, okay, we need to have, I don't know what happened here in the middle. We obviously need to keep him at a steady size here. It looks like something's getting away from us. Probably has to do with the location of the camera. So that is not exactly what we want. We want him to be absolutely rock solid there. So I wonder then, since we know what the focal length at the end is, let's just go and get rid of the first keyframe, duplicate that keyframe here, Shift D, enter, and just go move that. Oh, dude. Can't separate them now, can I? Ha! That's terrible. So Shift D and then move it around to frame 0 there. And this is now the same keyframe, so that's cool. But at frame 0, we're just going to go change the focal length to 300, and we'll go and take care of literally one axis of movement, and hopefully that'll do the trick. Oh, you're having hot cocoa in the cup that I sent you. That is so nice to hear. Thank you so much. Hey, we're having a hot drink together. That's really nice. I think we should make that a ritual. Whenever we meet, we should all have coffee or hot drinks or even cold drinks from mugs like these. I'm seriously thinking of getting a third design with him being on there, like we had the Toon Mouse. I like one with him. He's cute, especially good for Halloween, I guess. So nice. So we've got the focal length. Oops, we've got the focal length. I'll lock that in on here. So this now just does this. That's that. And we want to go and take care of the camera position next. And I think this is the Y-axis. So let's go on. Oh no, it's not the Y-axis. Interesting. Blender, come on. There we go. Is it the, what is it then? Is it X? Is it Z? I can't tell. It's certainly not X. Is it Z then? Is it? Z? It certainly isn't that. Isn't that? Is it a combination then? That's bizarre. What the? It is a combination. I think this is why that might be difficult. Well then, should we look at local? Will local work better? No. What a shame. What a shame. So it's not Z, so it must be a combination of Z and X. It's not. Z is up. What am I doing? What am I doing? Crazy. We're now in Blender, aren't we? We're not in DAZ Studio anymore. So Y, it's a combination of Y and Z and X. My goodness. He's lost it. Excellent. So -50. Let's try that. See, that's totally not it. It's completely not it. Yep, Jay's lost it. What a shame. Lost in Blender values. Yeah, that's why I wanted to change one axis, and it looks like that is not possible. That is uncool. So with one axis, which is what the dolly would do, that would be possible. Let me have a look at that from the director's camera. Yeah, see, this is what I wanted to. Maybe let's do two viewports here. Let's open that up here, And let's look through the camera here. That's the camera on that frame. Perfect. And this is going to be how we're going to change the camera at that point, because all I wanted to do is move it back to about here. There we go. Look, it's got the X, Y, and Z values all changed. Let's lock those in, see what that looks like. So there we go. Character stays more or less the same size and just eerily warps himself around. We're not even doing anything to that. It's literally one axis. So I suppose what wasn't working there was the fact that I was trying to do these as values, whereas with local transforms in one single slide, it was actually much easier. So the framing isn't particularly fantastic. So when we start here, it doesn't look like. Let's see if I can join areas. Go over here. Perfect. Oh no, that wasn't it. Thanks, Blender. So when we go and we don't really open with a striking image, but just to illustrate that this is how we can do it. I suppose also it's a bit slow, so I guess let's see if we can. We are 25 frames a second. Look at that, interesting. So we can make this faster if we wanted to. But we can see the effect. That's kind of nice. I think it started a little bit lame, so we can speed that up a bit. Let's turn it into at least into 30, and also make these keyframes linear. I think that's important as well, that we change them to linear interpolation. Can anyone remember how to do this? Because I don't remember. There was a way to do this. It was very easy. I just forgot how to do it. Interpolation mode, perhaps. Perhaps like that. Excellent. So that way it doesn't quite, we don't have to wait until this gets going, which with Bezier, that's what would be the case. I'll go put this to about here. And we can also shorten our animation to have 300 frames. And now it's all going to be a little bit, more like hopla hop, as they say. Still not as fast as I would have liked it to be. And really the most exciting thing happens in the second half of this. It's almost like we don't change the focal speed. Well, I suppose it's we are changing it in a linear fashion, but the closer we get, the more of a change there is in how we perceive that. So like the change from shame that this doesn't count here. I'd like to kind of see this counting. Update live here. I have to kind of hover over that field for it to have a live update. So this is something you can probably do easier in the post-production effect as you get closer, and just speed this up a little bit more, a little bit faster. Or we can do it here actually, if we're kind of happy with what happens from 50 millimeters onwards. We can go to about here, I guess. And let's say we set at keyframe 200. Let's go make that 50 millimeters. And from here to there, we have that. And then we can just go and say this keyframe here, which at that point was, really, that was supposed to be 300, wasn't it? Oh, maybe there was something wrong. So I here, and then we go and do that here. That now has this maybe this is going to look better because it just goes and makes this whole, the beginning thing a little bit faster. What are you doing? This is not what I want to do. Right, see, right. We may have to just get that second keyframe in here and lock that position in. Like that. So right, yeah. So on the last frame, he appears to be a little bit smaller than on our intermediate frame. So here and there, let's go and make that. Let's go and zoom him out a bit more here, just so that we keep him roughly the same size. Put that here, next keyframe here. We go and pull back a little bit, just a tiny amount. And lock that in as well. So additional keyframe just to speed the whole beginning process up a bit. Now we can see something happening. I was really missing that beforehand. But the character itself is trying to be in the same space. Obviously, when we get really close, it doesn't quite work that way. I can also see that we're probably frame dropping is actually on. Join areas, that goes here. Perfect. I think I'm beginning to understand Blender a little bit, which wasn't always the case. No, it's not linear, but it's at least it gives us that, it speeds up the first 2/3 that were a little bit lame otherwise. I think we're seeing speed changes now also because it's not those first keyframes, they probably weren't linear. Let me go make them all linear and see if that works better. We can also slow down the second part if that is better, just ever so subtly. Either speed up the first. Yeah, we do get to see this the speed change. I don't really know how else to avoid that. It's almost like you want the timeline to accelerate in a like opposite like curved direction, but I don't know how to do that. That is, because it's just kind of natural. We're going linear, but what happens visually doesn't work linear. So that's why we're kind of speeding up anyway, then we're manually slowing it down, and then it speeds up again. But I don't really know how to change that, other than starting with a shorter length in the beginning. Because you'd literally have to either mess with the passage of time, or you'd have to find a way to slow down the acceleration of how the aperture closes, or not aperture, sorry, how the focal length does its thing. I don't really know how to do that. Ease out curve. That's an interesting one. So literally an ease out curve, but only not on the camera move. Literally only on the way the change of the thing happens. Do you know what I mean? I'll go save this. First of all, I'll save this, and then I'll do what you suggested. We'll go get rid of this, and then we have that. But the issue is it starts slow. We nearly see nothing happening. Now it's getting to the speed that I'd like to have, more or less, for this thing to happen continuously. And now it starts happening so fast that I'm thinking, hey, slow down a little bit. How do we do that? I mean, there've got to be other interpolation types. I mean, there's a huge menu that comes up here. Look at that. There's got to be one of these. There's got to be a easing by strength and dynamic effects. Back, bounce, elastic. Let's stay away from those for now, shall we? sinusoidal, quadratic, cubic, quartic, quintic, exponential, or circular? Tell you what, let me know which one you like to use. I'm going to go have a little privacy break and I'll be back in 1 second. Welcome back. That's absolutely true. But yes, I would also be much unhappier though. Let's see what these things do, shall we? What is sinusoidal? Sounds like a pop song. Let's try sinusoidal. It's probably the opposite of what we actually want. And the more I think about it, I think the curve editor is probably the one thing we do actually need to do. So I see no difference whatsoever. But thanks, sinusoidal. How about quadratic? You doing things quadratically? Under the hood, it's just an empty if-then statement and nothing actually changes. Oh yeah, that! We were going to code that later. We just didn't get a chance to do it. We focused on the full-Anderson's feature. Oh, did you? That's awesome. Who wanted that? Oh, look at that. This is kind of the opposite of what we want. That's awesome. So we can already make the opposite happen. That's cool. We just need to inverse it now. Groovy. Which one was this one? Funkel and Garfield, exactly. What was this, quadratic? I was not listening to myself. Maybe we'll try quintic. I can already see that is not what we need. I need to really see vast amounts of changes when I do this here. Quintic, this wasn't quartic, was it? This was just cubic. Come on, no, that's also not what we want. Exponential then, come on. Oh, come on, Blender, one of these things will have to work. Totally doesn't. How about circular? That's always good. Circular is a no-go. Curve editor it is, I think so. I mean, there's also, let's have, how about back? Let's try back. What happens now? Okay, that is, you know, hey, that might be, that's exactly what we're looking for here. This is precisely what we had thought we needed. Don't knock it. I think this is my favorite effect so far. I think I'm going to definitely render this out with those sound effects as well. It's good to keep the fails. So this is exciting. This is the, what is this called? This is back. I suppose bounce will be equally exciting. I suppose it just goes and does this back and forth all the time. Also not bad, I must say. It's good for pop videos, especially if we make that faster. That's what a bounce does. Look at that. And I bet there's parameters to adjust somewhere. Elastic. All right, let's be elastic. Oh, do you know, this is probably how you do things, how you do this with wobbly bits. If you have something that's dangling around or whatnot, that's probably how you can do that. If you don't want to use physics for that, you can probably do that. That's kind of cool. Very cool. Skeleton. This is nice. It's also looking different than when we tried it the first time. Look at that. It's actually, it's random. Look at that. It's different every time we try it. Huh. Blender's full of surprises. Yeah, who wouldn't want a random interpolation curve? That was elastic. It's dynamic, you know. Okay. Well, I'm going to go put it back to linear for now. And we'll go amuse ourselves with the, oh, I was going to save this thing, wasn't I? Hang on a minute. What was the one that was that back? That was back, wasn't it? The one that was like... I'm going to render that out. That's going to go on my 3D Shenanigans channel. This is just such a beautiful fail. We have to have that. Of course, no, good point. Good point, Joe. Thank you for letting me know. I'll go and save this as the, what's it called here? This is Dolly Zoom fail 1. There we go. That sounds like a good idea. And now let's see how we can do this with the, I'll go put this back to linear, and we'll go and see what the curve editor can do for us. This is something I have no experience with whatsoever. I'll try to call this one Dolly Zoom curve editor. And this is the regular timeline. I think we want to use the graph editor, right? Graph editor. And here he is. With all the graphs in the world. Let's see if we can work out anything. This looks a little scary already, I must say. This is the only bit we want to focus on, but I can't really zoom in or out of this. And I wonder if what the green thing is, what the yellow thing is. I have no idea what anything is. I wonder if this is actually the interpolation itself. But of what? Camera action focal length. Oh, that's the yellow thing. Great, that's the yellow thing. So that's really what we need to mess with. And we want the value retained. It's so bizarre. If I go zoom in, there's got to be a better way to do this, man. There's got to be a better way to like make this, you know. Shouldn't there be a, I can only zoom out entirely, but not, I can't, you know, do that. So we need visual interfaces for that, like in, you know, Minority Report. That's what I want. In Blender, VR interface. How can I do that? And also, how can I change anything about this curve? That maybe? Object transformation is actually not what we want to mess with. We just want to mess with the interpolation of that, don't we? We want to have that down here happen slower. Is that what we want? Oh, that is obviously not what we want. Let's go make sure we put that back. Totally not what we want. So if this is indeed the focal length, we want for this to become a curve, don't we? One of the arrows on the left. Oh yeah, so yeah, this absolutely, yeah. I think we found it already. So the yellow thing, this is definitely the thing we want to change. We don't want this to have a linear path. We want for this to start a bit faster and then slow down. So this needs to become a curve, essentially. Handle type, interpolation type. Aligned. Oh, what was this? This is nice. Interpolation type, easing type, auto easing, ease out. That's what we want, isn't it? Is that what we want? Are we easing? I just like to make this a bit just flatter. That'd be nice. Can we do normalize? Oh my god, what did I do? That was terrible. Let's not do that. Let's go undo, abort. Oh, Jay's normalized it. Look at that, it's all gone to pots. What happened? Oh dear, what did I do? When undo doesn't work, oh, actually, is that just the, this is just the display, is it? I wish I knew, you know. It's completely... So it's just like, I've never seen this before, ever. I really don't know what I'm doing. Still fun though. Yeah, so that goes it up and down, and this, oh, that's what I was looking for. Is that what I was looking for? Yes, I think so. That was before I did normalize. Thank you, Dreamlab. That's exactly what I was looking for. That's precisely what I meant. Oh, you can also do control middle mouse button left, right, and up, down. This is exactly what I was looking for. Thank you. Very good. Haha. Great. This is exactly what I was looking for. That's perfect. Thank you. So now, how difficult can it be to just go and say, change the curve type, man? But I'm kind of expecting something visual to happen here, and I don't really see that. So an ease out, that's kind of what we need. I can see that there's a difference in the beginning. It speeds up a bit, but it's still too fast at the end. So it's kind of going in the right direction. It looks just like I want to play more with those types of parameters there. What does handle type do? Clamped automatic, my goodness. I wish, Rod, I wish. It doesn't feel like that. Every time I open Blender, I'm thinking, man, you know nothing, man. That's sad, honest truth, Rod. Oh, that's handy then, isn't it, Dreamlab? Very good. How would we even do that? Also, what am I touching here? What's the blue line? Oh my God, should I have done that? That was... What is the blue line? It's some camera related thing. It's the Z location. Oh my goodness, have I just messed up something here? I have no idea. I have no idea. The graph editor is a total mystery to me. What else can we do there? Handle type, interpolation type, keyframes, duplicate, mirror, snap, the end. So without using keyframes, making this kind of a curve, that is, so I suppose essentially what I'd like the yellow thing to do is really not to go linear at all. I would like for that to go like that. Really, right? That's what we want. We want for this to start fast to say about 2/3 in, like that, and then flatten out to eventually arrive at this point. So this not to be a linear thing, but to be a ditched in curve. That's a possibility. Yeah, let's try that. On the regular timeline, what happens if I go and change the interpolation point? Let's go back to Bezier and let's just see what the visual change is in the graph editor. Now there is one. Now that is a curve. So we've also got these exciting handles here, with which we check it out. We can mess things around with, y'all. That's exciting. That's kind of what I want, isn't it? It's not quite as dramatic as that, but you know, in theory, I don't actually care that much about this ditch here because we're only starting from here. That is, of course, I think I messed something up. That was not so good. I can also see that this is not what we actually wanted. I suppose we wanted to mess then with the camera's location. No, we don't. Let's see if undo does anything. And hope. Almost. It changed too much. I don't even know what, if it's not the focal length speed that we want to change. It's literally the progression of time overall that we want to change, isn't it? It's not actually just the focal length, because the focal length and the camera speed are fine the way they are. We just want to apply that effect on the whole animation, on the whole, on time, essentially. I think that's what we want to do. Also, undo doesn't work, so I'm going to go and see how I just go and recover my last session. That doesn't work either. Excellent. Blender, thank you so much. That's really helpful. Don't save that, and let's just go with the curve editor file. So in the graph editor, we apply that first of all to get ourselves a little slice of visual pie here. Oh yes, and then we need to go over to the timeline again and apply that Bezier thing like that, I think. Then we go graph editor, and I think now I'm going to go and save it so that we've got this like as a starting position. So you're saying apply what you just did, but apply more or less the same thing on the camera transformation, which in our case, do you know, but the problem I also have now, just in understanding this, is that if that were true, Brian, and I think that's a good argument. If that were true, then how can I? So see, I can't even actually articulate what my problem is now. The thing is, if I look at all these values here, the X, Y, and Z translation values or location values for the camera, they all change, which makes no sense. Not to me anyway, because on my camera itself, when I was not looking at this thing, I only change a single parameter, namely the Z of the, or whatever the blue handle is on the local transformations on the camera. But this thing here is not showing me the locals, neither is the graph editor. So without seeing a single thing I can mess with, that makes it impossible for me to do that though, doesn't it? Because I think that's kind of where I'm really stumbling to understand why I'm clearly only using one item here, but I'm having three different values here. It's like this is showing me world and this is showing me local, and I need to see local here, and I don't know how to switch that on. That's good to know. It's still an interesting puzzle though, isn't it? I mean, even if I were to do this as a post-production effect, I don't really know how I would do that. At least there's only one slider, then that's time. And maybe that is kind of possible to do. But that's really all the ideas I have about that. The graph editor, I think it's going to be the right decision. I think that's exactly what we need to do. But how to make that happen? How to make that happen is really, really difficult. And additional keyframes is just going to mess with the whole thing unless we create them literally at every frame and adjust for the speed at what's happening here on every frame. There's got to be a way. Come on, Brian, we have to be able to work this out. What else have we got here? Is there anything else? There's the dope sheet. That's interesting too. Timeline graph editor. There's a driver. There's a driver. Roberta also gave up. Oh, a driver might be the answer. We can look at, so the way a driver works is it looks at one value, applies a formula to it, and applies the calculated value to another one as an input. So the idea that springs to mind is that we can have a look at my camera's focal length and indeed use a driver in that. So rather than making this linear progression from 300 to 8, we can use a driver that says, in order to arrive at the values on every keyframe, you look at the, whatever it was, the single local translation of your camera, and then you interpolate from that those values. And if I was a mathematician, I could work out a formula that does something, you know, divided by 2, whatever the power of 2.01 or whatnot, would then, you know, let us have a formula that would slow down this whole focal length shift. That would be cool. That would be really cool. See what the internet says. Maybe somebody's done it. It's usually the case. Someone's worked it out. Use a driver to change focal length in Blender. And then, of course, you know, search for whatever I thought I had typed in instead. Change and update spot size when camera lens change. Okay, that sounds interesting. How to get a camera's focal length parameter to animated control bone. Okay. Can I just camera perspective, aka focal length? Keyframe camera focal length. Camera rigs. Let's have a look. Change and update spot size when camera lens changes. Is that relevant to us? How can I get the spotlight size to update when I change the camera lens angle? Oh, spotlight of a light. Yeah, I get you, brother. And he does it in Python. Woo, awesome. Is it relevant to us? I can't see it. That's not relevant to us, I don't think. Not relevant. Hello, Chris. How you doing? We're currently deep involved banging our heads against the walls. Chris, maybe you can help. Here's the thing. Here's the puzzle I propose to you. Here's an animation we've made. And it's a fairly easy one. There's a camera and there's a character. And the character stays in the same position while we move in with the camera, and at the same time we're changing the focal length to show more. So we're going from a long focal length to a very short focal length, like that. It's a very cool effect. It's very creepy. It's very exciting stuff. This is what we want. The effect is exactly how we want it. What we don't want is the way that the time appears to be. Well, we need to change how fast things are happening in our scene. And for that, ideally, we can see that for the first half of the animation, or 2/3 rather, we have a very slow progression of this effect. And in the last third is what we'd like to stretch out. Now, it doesn't look good to put an additional keyframe in the middle. Say we had 300 frames, put an additional keyframe at about frame 200. That is something that we will notice. There's a bit of an abrupt change, and you know, it's just what we like to do is speed up the first portion of the thing, both the camera's movement as well as the focal length change, make that a bit faster, and then ease it out towards the end. Yeah, but Brian, that is still doesn't really. I still don't know how to do it. That's the problem, you know, because it's So we can I guess just go and say put the Bezier thing on here like we did. That's cool. But now you're saying go into the graph editor and apply that change there, right? Is that am I getting you correctly? Like here, and then just go more or less like what we said here on the focal length thing. We just go do this. Oh, actually we do that. Is that what we do? Somehow. It's doing it with all points. Ay, caramba, that's not what we want. Right, undo, abort, there. Whew. Just use that. That then. This specifically. No. In the timeline only. Didn't I do that? Timeline. There you go. Just in the timeline. But then I only really have the interpolation mode, don't I? That's a shame, isn't it? I can do interpolation differently here than on the other one. But maybe that's the point. Maybe I'll do linear on here, and then I'll do one of these other super fantastic ones like here, these ones here. Quintic on here. Maybe that'll work. Does that work? Oh, I forgot quintic does the opposite of what we actually want. Like with many things, Brian, it's not Blender, it's us. Maybe this one, sinusoidal dungeons. I have a feeling a driver is the answer. And somebody who knows, maths and stuff, and who can calculate that with formulas and the large F's with lots of brackets and stuff. It's not something I will ever be able to comprehend. Yeah. Other than that, I don't think I can make this happen. Yeah. Yeah, we thought about that as well. We thought about the curve would do that. Let me go back to Bezier here. And let's see one last time in graph editor. Looks like it's exactly the thing we want to use for that. It's a total mystery. We've worked out the yellow thing here. That's our focal length. But see, this is a question that you may be able to answer, Chris. This is the second puzzle. This is why this is kind of leading into the graph editor here. So it is fairly easy to adjust this value here. We just click on this first keyframe and we go and try to make this curve kind of go like that. It's kind of, it approximates the speed curve we want. We want for this to be faster here and slower there. So technically that's great, but this only applies now to the focal length. So if I play this back, the focal length now does this thing, and then it goes and eases out. But of course, the camera movement doesn't quite do the same thing. So we need to adjust the camera movement to have at least a very similar curve. And that is possible, I'm sure. If we look at the way the focal length now behaves, it's kind of what I want. It's just that the camera movement doesn't quite, follow that. So here's my problem, Chris, and this is what you might be able to answer. I'll just go back to the regular timeline here, and I'm going to make myself a second viewport so that I can have one of them with the camera and what it shows, and another one with just the camera from the top here. So here's the thing, it's about local versus world coordinates. In my camera transformations here, while I move the slider, I can see that all three values for X, Y, and Z change, even though that is not how I animated it. If you look at the camera, literally this is now looking at local position. So I only have moved one slider to arrive at the first keyframe and to arrive at the last keyframe. That's all I did. It was literally just, you know, this is one, change a single axis and get to the other one. How can I make it so that this shows in fact the local parameters of the camera rather than the world coordinates? Do you see my predicament, laddie? That's the puzzle, because to change this, I head over here and I say object gizmo local default world whatever. So I can go to normal, I guess not. Excellent, bad example. So let's say maybe global, and then I can see that this changes here, but that doesn't seem to follow. Do you see what I mean? Or this, that's just got to be, I can't really watch a video now, Steve. Thanks for the offer though. What I can probably do is have a search on Google. That's always good. If the driver search was unsuccessful, let's try how to make Blender show local coordinates in transforms. Transform properties, display and manipulate local coordinates of a child. That could be changing object location in local coordinates don't work. Set local in object mode, interesting. Yeah, that might be difficult. That might be difficult. Just Generation Z, too much to read. I don't get it. Let's move on. Next article. Maybe I am Generation Z. Dun, 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 dun. Clear parent inverse function. It's not irrelevant. Scratch his head. With version 2.56a, I'm seeing local odds in the form of the child object. Seeing 2.49. Jesus, that is, you know. Perhaps it's not possible. Might just not be possible. What I'm looking for. Maybe it's not implemented. I'll try it. Let me try and go join this. Usually the wrong thing. This is very intuitive. You pick the thing that you think it is, and it's usually the wrong thing. So you think that's the rule, then you turn that around, and at that point the rule also turns around. It's not easy, you see, not easy. So we're looking for X, Y, and Z locations. They are linear. Oh yeah, I need to go and apply the different types of keyframes there. I thought I had already done that. Did I not do that? Interpolation mode Bezier. Oh yes, there we go. I can just about see them. So make that. And do that with 3 curves. A tenner in my pocket says it's not going to work. Because they'll just follow different paths now, won't they? Oh, I could have actually just touched all 3 of them, I suppose. Let's see if Blender remembers the undo thing here. Let's try that. It does. Oh yes, it does. Good stuff. It just takes several Control Z's. Undo history, box select, click on. Yeah, forget it. It'll be much easier to just go and open the file again. So one undo takes like 2 minutes. That's just, Blender, please, come on. Or as we say in the north of Germany, let's put butter by the fishes. We do that, and now we go and try and box select all of these. And now we do kind of that. That's interesting. Not sure if it's showreel material. All right, we fixed it. Perhaps it's just as easy to just go G and just move all this crap up here and just go hope for the best. Well, certainly cinematic. I think that's my favorite so far. I think, you know, we'll just go cut the first bit off. You know, I think this is really nice. This is really nice. It's just kind of gives me that David Lynch type feel. Well, alrighty then. Let me go render this out and put it on my channel. Maybe, you know, starting here at about frame 75. It's almost I like to make this slower now. Yeah, I think we've got it. Let me go save this. This is nice. Let's go save that. So this is Dolly Zoom fail number 2. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Especially this cinematic overview of the city there. Cut print. That's it. Well, that was not successful, but you know, we got some funny things out of it. I think, you know, it's no, I'm thinking the same would have happened had we been able to pick one curve. I think had we been able to locate one curve here, the same would have happened. I think it's very unlikely that we would have been able to synchronize the control curve for the focal length with the control curve of the camera movement. There's a solution to this, I'm sure, and one day we'll find out. Sadly, today is not the day, but as soon as we do find out, let's all keep each other updated on that. I'm gonna do something else now, close Blender down and all that, and let's see if I can. This is really trippy. The more I look at this, this is just very, very trippy. Yeah, I'm going to do something else now. Maybe a crossword puzzle or something. Or just, you know, have a think about 3D unrelated things. My friends, thank you so much for hanging in there. Sorry it wasn't successful. But I'll be back tomorrow morning with something way more successful on the Stardew Valley stream, of course, at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If I don't have a power cut, that is. If I do find a solution to this, I'll let you know. And we can discuss it in a Twitch stream tomorrow. But if not, we'll see how it goes. See you later, my friends. Have a wonderful evening. Take care. Bye-bye.